Alice, our producer, came across this story. I'd never heard of this before. I thought this was actually a joke when I first heard it. Look, when your kids are in school or just starting school, right, parents are involved. You go to parent-teachers meetings, and maybe they let you know beforehand what the program is going to be for the year. But I think, and Alice, you sort of brought this up to me, this kind of ends when your kid goes to CEGEP, right? You're out of high school. You're now looking forward as a young person to going in there, having some freedom, and it's going to be you. And then suddenly, and this is the article in La Presse that kind of broached the subject, the next thing you know, you as the parent are being consulted here as to what your child, who's now entering CEGEP or college, is actually going to be doing. And I thought as soon as I heard that, what is it? This is helicopter parents for CEGEP or college age? What are we doing here? I thought the whole idea was to let these kids become more adult-like, more independent, and kind of, not have parents pretty much run things, but apparently I was wrong. Pascale Bourgeois is a lecturer in education and pedagogy at UQAM, and she's on the line. Pascale, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How surprised? Well, obviously you were, because you wrote a piece about this. Had you ever heard this anywhere before you found about it here?
I must admit, it's the first time I hear about parents' meetings that are being held in college in CEGEP, but I do notice in my practice and in my research as an educator that there's a tendency to infantilize our youth, and this goes on, and it continues in adulthood. And we even see certain accommodations and support being given to students at university that I think is quite infantilizing. So it's just a continuation of and sort of a parental and education practice that is very detrimental, in my opinion, because they never get the chance to experience independence and to become young adults who are thriving.
Yeah. Which is, again, my thinking in reading the story was, wait a sec, the whole idea of, you go off to CEGEP or college after high school is for you to become just that, right? To grow into a young adult, be able to make decisions on your own. Why do you think this is happening? Is it parents who've been asking for this? Do you have any idea why?
I think it's a vicious circle, because I think that parents, you talked about helicopter parents, and that's definitely the case. That's what I saw in that meeting. I saw parents who wanted to be involved and who wanted also to continue to provide. They were micromanaging their kids, and they wanted to supervise them and to continue to be very much involved. But I also see that way of seeing education in the educational field, and I think that our institutions are contributing to that by providing support and accommodations to students, because I believe they identify what they think is a need in this, and we see that the profile of our students in college and in university has changed over time. They enter college being less mature, less independent, less autonomous, but it's just a vicious circle, because the solutions that we're actually proposing are just making it worse, because we just postpone indefinitely the moment where it's actually going to stop.
Is part of this the fault of the education system for not preparing these kids well enough or better, or not?
Well, yes, I think parents and our educational institutions are responsible, because you see the same thing happening at school. We're caring a lot about our children's well-being, but in a way that actually is quite detrimental, because we care so much about them not feeling stressed out and always feeling comfortable and secure, that we're actually creating a generation of very vulnerable and fragile youth who are insecure and who never experienced adversity or never learned to take risks and take responsibility. So there's definitely a little bit of the responsibility has to be shared.
I wonder, too, basically we have a cycle of dependency here, right? You start with it at a young age, and it seems to just take longer and longer, as your article highlights, for that cycle to be broken. And I'm thinking that has to be detrimental in and of itself.
Yes, definitely. And I'm wondering when it will actually stop, because I think there's a window of opportunity where you have to let those kids experience and take risks. And if they never did it when they are young adults, they tend to ask for more protection, for more support, instead of rebelling against our our supervision, parental supervision, or the authority figures, they ask for more support, more protection. So I'm afraid that they will end up in the work field and in the world in general, and still be dependent. They will ask the same thing from their employer or from the state.
Can you imagine that? Go to work as your first job coming out of university and something goes wrong and you call your mommy or daddy because you're not quite sure how to handle that? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Well, at university, it's a new trend. We provide students with a contract that they can fill out whenever they do teamwork, because you hear a lot. You hear the students complain that they feel very anxious to work with teammates that they haven't chosen, and they tend to come to the professor or to the lecturer to get help to manage their social interactions with their classmates. So even at university, but it's just a vicious circle, because now we provide them with these kind of contracts, so we are managing their social interactions instead of just telling them, look, you're an adult, deal with it.
Yeah. Which at some point you just obviously have to do. And I understand, as I said off the top, this whole helicopter parent idea, I know you want to protect a child. And as I said, obviously that's great to a point. Do you think parents are not getting this and just thinking, you know what, don't tell me how to manage or how to deal with my child. I think this is the best I can do, and it's good for them and for me. Is that the kind of feedback one gets?
Well, I think they're not being told very often to let go. They're listening probably to experts who actually advocate for that kind of involvement and overprotective education. So, because in that meeting, for example, parents were encouraged to extend their support throughout the college education that their kids will do. So they were not told. I would have found it great if that information meeting was meant to tell parents, look, you're going to have to let it go, and you can't get involved in your kids' education anymore. They're entering college, and you have to let them behave as young adults. But that was not the case. You can see that researchers, professors, and administrators, they want to sort of smooth out that transition from high school to college. And nowadays in CEGEP, it feels more like a secondary six than really a break, a salutary break with childhood.
Can I just, as a final question, I'm not sure this is fair, but do you get a sense that maybe universities or CEGEPs in this case are doing this to protect themselves?
It could be the case. I mean, and they're looking for clients. So we have to admit that they're looking for students to attend to their institutions and to come to their programs, and they want students to feel comfortable and safe. But I really believe that for sure, some professors think that it's detrimental, but in general, it's seen as a good thing. It's seen as being nice and being supportive. I don't see my colleagues realizing that they're actually contributing to that cycle of dependency.
I wonder, someone just texted in saying, I've seen this now, been going on for years. I wonder when this begins to change or when there's going to be backlash to it, but I guess we won't know. I thank you so much. I do appreciate the time. It's a fascinating article if you want to check it out in La Presse. Pascale, merci beaucoup.
Merci à vous.
Pascale Bourgeois, you too, lecturer in education at UQAM. I don't know, that just seems weird to me. It would seem to me as the kid, right? That's the last thing you would want to have, is your sort of parents involved in that kind of stuff. That's why you got out of high school, right? Look, I'm going to try to do this as a young adult, learn the hard way. Apparently not.